MW223. I wanted to go over two assignments, one that's due this week, week 3 at the start of class, and a big project that's due next week, week 4 at the start of class. Just want to go over some of the details, make sure that you're very clear on it. This past week you turned in your short sleeve knit and long sleeve knit flats and cads, and there was requirements on those, but we learned some new tools and skills this past week, and I want to make sure that those are included on your short sleeve shirt and long sleeve shirt flats and cads. Now these definitely have to be shirts. They need to look like they're shirts. We've spoken about a lot of the detailing specific to shirts, about how collars are made, collar bands, what those look like on the inside of the garment, as well as how things are seams are made, armhole seam, flat felled, can't be edge stitch. All of those details need to be included in your flat. In addition, we want to make sure that you have the following in your flats. You want to make sure that the color mode is CMYK. If I go to File, Document, Color Mode, I need to make sure that it says CMYK. All of your strokes need to be 0, 0, 0, 100. So if I click on the stroke, I need to make sure that that is actually your default 0, 0, 100 for all of your black strokes need to be that color. We did learn about shadows. We've learned them a couple of times. And again, shadows are going to be your 4 100s at a transparency of between 15 and 25%. I am requiring that you have shadows going forward from this point, at least minimum shadows. Shadows are most important when you're showing the difference between two different levels in your garment, such as between the front layer and the back layer. So that's going to happen the most at your inner neck and possibly at your hem, and if you're showing the inside of the sleeve. When you do make the shadow for the inside of the neck, make sure that it looks like a shadow. If you fill the whole section, it will actually look like a contrast color, as if the inside of your inner collar band as well as your inner yoke is a different color of fabric. Make sure that it actually looks like a shadow. This is going to give your flat as much dimension as possible. Strokes must be weighted. Heaviest weight for outline, then folds and opening, seams and top stitching, making sure that it's consistent between all of your flats and styles. So we want to make sure that all openings are a medium weight, an opening at the neck, an opening at how the garment opens, an open at the hem, an opening at the pocket. If you're showing the inside of the sleeve, there's a sleeve opening there. We've also gone over using variable width profiles for tapers. I want to make sure that you're using those, not just the regular triangle, but the actual fold taper, in order to make sure that that actually looks as functional as possible. So making sure that that actually has the fold taper to it. It's giving it its most dynamic look. It shows that it's really a fold and it's not some sort of seaming. You want to make sure that that's there at a medium weight. No live paint on your black and white flats, nor on your simple fill. If you want to have a simple white fill on your flat, especially if you're showing some background behind it, it's just a simple fill. There's no fill to all the other separate pieces, right? I don't have a sleeve shape, separate sleeve shape. I just have that one simple fill on the garment. The same is true for your solid color, right? So it's a simple fill, solid colored garment. And the reason that I'm pushing for that is I want you to be able to change the whole garment very quickly and easily, because it's just a simple fill. You're going to do the pattern filling. I want to make sure that the grain lines are correct. We certainly covered this extensively last semester. If you have any questions about which direction things go, I would do that. My suggestion is to start with a stripe to ensure that you are actually seeing all of the patterns in the correct directions. You can make a simple stripe and be able to see what your grain lines actually are. So if I do a simple stripe here, going to drag this into my swatches. I can then select same fill color, select that pattern for the fill, and I can see exactly which grain lines, making sure that they align for the collar, for the sleeve, for the body, exactly how it should actually appear. And your last CAD is a style variation, taking your original garment and doing some sort of adaptation to give it a different style look. Do week 4 is your color palette and inspiration. Now, being very specific about what the requirements are here for this project, because I want you to be totally prepared to work in class on building patterns and garments and items using your color palette, using your inspiration, and having it all be cohesive to a collection that you're actually going to be building. So the first part of this is going to be your color palette. You need at least 15 colors. They all need to be named spot colors, right? So if I pull out my palette, I see that these are named and they're spot colors. So if you don't remember what that is, you have color type. You have a choice between process and spot color. You're going to select spot color. You're going to name each color. You can include a Pantone color code if you know that. You can add that into your color name so that you can, everybody who's using your palette would actually be able to see that colored code in there as well. But these must be your colored named swatches. And clear out your palette. You don't want to have 1,000 of extra colors that aren't actually part of your palette. You can go into select all unused and it should show you which are not being used currently, and you can delete them out. Make sure that each of your chips on your board is actually filled with your color. If I click on it, it should highlight the color from your palette. You're naming your chips on the page. The name needs to be consistent between the chip and what's listed in your palette. This shouldn't say Ivy and this says Ivy Green. They should both say the same thing so that you're not confusing someone. You're going to have basically 3 types of colors. You're going to have some core colors that carry over from one season to the next or from one delivery to the next as we're working. You're going to have your colors for the delivery as well as some pop colors. Again, you need an extensive color palette because you're going to be required to make as many as 9 different colors ways in a single garment. If you only have 4 colors, you can't make 9 colorways. In order to show me how you're going to utilize your palette, in addition to the page with just your palette colors, I am going to require that you show me how you're going to use it in each of the 3 deliveries. We are going to have an early fall, a fall and holiday, or an early spring, spring and summer deliveries. Show me how you would make at least 3 colorways of something like a plaid. So in this case, these are all from my palette. I have brought to the highest point the color that I think is the most dominant that I'm going to utilize. So I've got this aqua color, this oxyfire, and this vagrant light color that is going to be the most predominant color in those patterns, and these are additional colors that I would work in with it. So you can see that I could easily make 6 different colors of a solid garment if I needed to from these. And yet as I go into the fall delivery, I'm transitioning which colors are the most dominant and how they're actually working together. These 3 actually look different than these 3 sets of colors, right? Different utilizations, different emphasis. Some of the colors actually carry over, but they're highlighted and utilized in different ways. Then you have your last delivery. And again, making sure that you have 3 colorways doing this. This is a very good exercise to show how you're going to utilize it. You do not have to follow this exact format. You are welcome to do any sort of version, just so long as I can see which is the most dominant. If you want to make the most dominant one the largest color in it, you are welcome to do that. I could slide these over. I could make this the largest, most dominant color in that assortment, just so that it's very easy to see which is which. As far as your inspiration goes, I'm requiring very specific requirements for your inspiration. So to ensure that it is something that you can build a collection from, I'm going to require that you have at least 2 pieces of outerwear inspiration, at least 2 woven shirt inspirations, at least 2 cut and sew knit inspiration, at least 2 bottom inspiration. These are classifications that you're going to be building from for your deliveries. We covered the collection line list last week. You understand what's actually required there. I have some extra content. You're welcome to have as much on there as you want to. In this case, there's some sweaters, as I plan to build a sweater or 2 in my collection and make sure that I'm utilizing it. Extra content could also be accessories that you're inspired by to include. Perhaps I want to make a sweater that actually has these leather straps on it. You could have button inspiration, anything else, but that's all going to fall under extra content. You must have the 2 outerwear, 2 woven shirts, 2 knits, and 2 bottom images included, showing very tightly how you plan to develop your collection and deliveries for it. As far as print pattern goes, you do need to have at least two plaid inspirations to build from. We're going to build these patterns in class. Spend a little time now to find plaids that you really like, that you think are cohesive to the collection you're making, as well as 2 stripe patterns. For the prints, I will require at least 2 different pattern references, and one I'm saying it's a pattern reference. This is a pattern that I'm inspired by from my collection. I'm not going to copy it exactly. I'm going to use some different motifs. I'm requiring at least 2 motifs for that pattern. So a pattern inspiration and 2 motifs that play into it. So I could build a new pattern inspired by this layout, but with different motifs. So I'm creating my own pattern there. I have a little extra content here. I could have it, and this is just an additional pattern that could be used, but I will require a second pattern reference with another 2 motifs. So 2 pattern references are required, each with 2 motifs that you would be able to build a new pattern inspired by that, so that you're creating your own pattern. I have a little backup here, some extra content in case I wanted to make some additional patterns off of that. It's better to have a little bit more now than less. As we've spoken about before, when you have a motif, it's best to have one that's very clear and easy to grab all by itself. If I was using this as a motif, it would be very hard to be, not impossible, but it would be more of a challenge to pull shapes out of that. So again, this is due on week 4. I wanted to make sure that we're all still remembering that is coming up and is required. So please be prepared to have that ready by the start of class. If I give you till the end of class to submit something, I know that most of you will actually work on it during class and not pay attention to any of the lessons. And the lessons are very important, as we are learning new skills that you're going to need in order to either do the in-class assignment or the assignment for the following week. So please review this. If any of you have any questions, please let me know. You can email me, or for the week 4 assignment, you can definitely bring up questions during class and we can cover it then. Hope you're enjoying the weekend.